and welcome to Blue Team Toolbox. I am your host, Edith Price. I am super excited. This week we will write our first Cipher code. Our lucky subject, the reverse cipher. As the name implies, this code will take a message and display it in reverse order. I'm sure it goes without saying, reverse cipher is an extremely poor method for encrypting messages. However, it makes an excellent candidate for beginning programmers and cryptographers. As usual, links for cracking codes with Python and how to install Python will be in the show notes below. From here on out, our code is going to get longer, therefore I will also start including the typed out code in the show notes. I encourage you to actually type the code in your editor rather than copy and paste. It will help you get acclimated to writing code. If you haven't already done so, open your text editor from your shell by going to File, New File. Type in the reverse cipher code and save it. Run the code by pressing F5. You should see an encrypted message in your shell. To decrypt, copy the message and paste it in the quotes for the message variable. Save it again, then run the program. You should now see the original message in your shell. Super cool! Activate super secret scroll powers! Okay, let's pull this apart and see how it works. The first two lines are our comments explaining what this code does and where one can find it. You should always give credit where it's due. It's just plain rude to pass off someone else's work as your own. In some places, it's illegal to plagiarize someone else's work. So if you didn't write the code all by yourself, notate where you got the code from. We are especially lucky because we have a BSD license. This means we are free to copy and modify the code so long as we give credit to the author. Next, we have a variable that holds our message. The next variable is an empty string where we'll hold our message after it's gone through our script. Now we have a new function. The len function calculates the length of whatever is in its parentheses and returns that value as an integer. This line takes the length of our variable, subtracts that number by 1, then stores that value into the variable I. I'm going to pause here a minute so we can see some uses for that len function. Going back to our code, the subtraction of 1 is important because it will return the index of the last character in our message. Recall that indices begin with 0. Hello has a length of 5, but O has an index of 4. This bit here is called a while loop. In some programming languages, you might hear it be called a do-while loop. A while loop will continue to repeat a set of instructions so long as a condition is true. The indented part directly under the while condition tells Python to run this block of code until the condition is false. We need to pause our breakdown again and take a closer look at this while loop concept. It introduces another data type called a Boolean. A Boolean, or a bool, is a data type that can have one of two values, true or false. With Python, they are case sensitive, always with a capital T or a capital F respectively. You can store a bool directly into a variable, or you can write an expression with a comparison operator. There are a handful of comparison operators. Greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, not equal to. That last one can get a little bit tricky. Okay, back to our code. We left off with our while loop. While I is greater than or equal to 0, do this block of code. The next line we start to fill up our translated variable in reverse order as our message variable. During the first instance of the loop, translated holds the last index of our message. The next line subtracts 1 from our I value. Since we are at the bottom of our block, we loop back to the top of our while condition and verify the expression is still true. Even though we decremented our I by 1, it's still greater than 0. Therefore, we run through the block again. This time, we concatenate the translated variable with the second to last index of the message variable, subtract 1 from I again. Back to the top of the loop and re-evaluate. Wash, rinse, repeat. Now let's pretend we went through nearly the entire message and our I value is 0. The comparison will still evaluate to true because our variable I is greater than or equal to 0. The last character will be added to our translated variable and we will decrement I by 1 again. However, this time the comparison will evaluate to false because -1 is not greater than or equal to 0. Our code will now process the next line after the while block and print out our translated variable. If you want to have a little fun with this code, change it up just a tiny bit by adjusting how the line with our message variable works. Instead of hard-coding a message into the variable, make it so our shell asks for a message. Take a look. Next week, we get to expand on Chapter 1. It's been a while, so let me refresh your memory. Chapter 1 is where we introduced the Caesar cipher and how it worked. I'll link that episode below if you need to review. With Chapter 5, we'll write the code to encrypt and decrypt with the Caesar cipher. See you then.